So, hello and welcome to our next episode, Live with the Author. And it's a great pleasure and great honor to have Josef Kunkela from Czech Republic with me or with us. We hope that many people will be watching this and more even watching this later. And we will talk about a topic that is one of my main interest topic of my dental career. This is CAD CAM Dentistry, but we will take a part out of CAD CAM Dentistry. We will not talk about scanners tonight. We will not talk about what is the best material, but we will go and explore a different topic, which when I prepared this interview with Josef, I was amazed how far Josef already has gone with switching from milling restoration to printing restoration. And just a small last introduction, my first contact with CAD CAM systems was back in 1986 when I was a dental student, and I received 5 CEREC restorations done with a prototype. The dentist was Mark Hürzeler, and these 5 inlays are still in my mouth. So Josef, so you have to be careful if the material we are talking about now stays for 34 years in the mouth of the patient. So hello and welcome, Josef. Maybe you can introduce yourself to the audience, and then we will go right into the discussion.
Hello, everybody. It's really a pleasure for me to be part of the serial interviews, and to be between the names which have been already invited. And yeah, to introduce myself, I'm dentist from the city which nobody can repeat the name. The name is Jindřichův Hradec. This is the weekend. This is.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah, before the Second War, the name was the Neuhaus. But we go back to our Czech name. And this is as well the weakest part of my project of Dental Academy, because all the guests which have already visited the training or attend the training can never speak about with their friends or recommend the name of the city where they have been, because no one can repeat the name. And yeah, this is where I live. And yeah, I am started with the CAD CAM with red cam era. It's almost 13 years, I guess, or maybe 14 years ago. And I was really one of the students of Alessandro. He didn't know that, but I watched his webpage on dentist.ch, and there was a lot of interesting tips and tricks for the CAD CAM, because in that era was the more important to care about tips and tricks about the software tools. When I can compare now, and I believe that Alessandro will agree with me, now we have a time to focus more for the preparation, diluting, bonding, for the finishing and polishing the restoration, because softwares are almost, can say the idiot proof. It's very easy to manipulate and to compare the time where we have started. What do you think about it? I agree with me, Alessandro?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember the CEREC one and the software. So I'm really honest. I didn't understand the software, so I just was playing around and tried my best to get something out of the machine. But always was amazed by the concept, the philosophy of having this digital technology in my hand, the patient in front of me, and the whole chairside philosophy. This was really something that fascinated me from the beginning. So the virus, the CAD CAM virus, was in my blood from the very start when I met Professor Merman for the first time. So I'm still amazed that not more dentists are doing CAD CAM chairside dentistry. So there are many reasons why this is so. So people are saying, okay, it's the problem of the investment. So you have to pay money to get your CAD CAM system. So you have to learn. But I agree with you that the software today is very easy to use, even for somebody who's a beginner. But then I always remember what Pascal Magne was saying. We have to teach the dentists how a tooth looks like. So even lab technicians have forgotten how a tooth looks like. So they accept what the machine tells them. And the proposal is okay, they click the green arrow, they go ahead, mill it out, and then wonder that function is not working, occlusion is not working. So I think it's still important with the development of new technologies, we also have to develop. It's the comparison of a Formula One car is the best car, but you have to know how to drive it. So the latest CAD CAM technology, the latest what we see behind you, the latest microscopes, any latest digital technology needs also a user that it is at the same level of the technology, and only then you're able to really use it and get the most out of it. So this is my small comment on this. And I would like to start with the first question that part you already have answered. So you started your milling career with the red cam, but when did you start your 3D printing career?
Yeah, I had started with 3D printing when appeared the first, the temporary resin, which was able to print. And but at that time, I was not so like the wondering about the reality that I can change, for example, the permanent crown be printed from the like our the stack of the blocks which I have used before. But yeah, it's happened like a year ago when I've like implemented more and more the permanent resin in my daily routine, but especially for the daily bread things, single crowns, inlays, onlays.
So you're hitting something. I started my 3D printing career buying a Formlabs printer some years ago, and I want to be honest. So I found it not easy to use. I found it dirty to use. So you have to print, you have to wash, you have to recure. So there's several steps to really get a good quality result. And so that's why at the end, I stopped using a 3D printer in my office and gave it to my lab technician, and are now, for the few things that I really want to 3D print, I give it to somebody else. So they give me a model for 20 euros, they do this for 10 euros. So the prices have dropped dramatically for 3D printing services. And if I make the calculation, maybe you can give me an answer on this. The calculation, buying the printer, buying the material, taking the time. So maybe this is the next question. So what are your time frames for the different things? So let's start. How long does it take to do a model?
Yeah, and then I will go back to your comparison with the workflow of post production of the millet restoration and the printed restoration, because there is a like a little bit different, but not so big the time difference. Look at for example from my eyes one of the most the perfect, almost the perfect material for posterior crowns. It's a zirconia crown, which are usually like multi-layered, very precise because it's millet bigger, 30% bigger. Then you have to like sinter it material. Then you have to like the polish. You have to care about this material as well. And look at the dust from the zirconia. You can be the dirt as well. And there are some few the similar steps. Depends on which post production you will use. For example, the washing part or the curing part. It's not so dirty just now, but it's still you have to care about all steps. It's the same like with the sintering or crystallization process. It's the same about the polishing and caring about the margin. It's the same with preparing the resin material. You have to care about the sandblasting, about the finishing and polishing, about I think the washing of the part. But we have automatically operated devices for the washing. For example, it's not necessary like to care too much about this washing process.
So
But
do you
once
have
I go, yeah.
so have do you have a system that is like I saw that some companies are developing now systems with cartridges that you put the cartridge in, it comes out, and the whole procedure of post production. So many people don't realize that in 3D printing there's a lot of post production. So you have to prepare
Yeah,
it, you print it, and it's not like if you print something in a printer on paper. When it comes out, it's dry and you can read it and it's finished. The 3D printer in dentistry needs the washing and the post curing. So what is your protocol? So that's why I was asking about the time frames.
yeah, yeah,
What time frames are we talking about for the production?
yeah. If you will like the compare to like post production after scanning or after design, when you will send the data to the milling unit, you have to wait for the milling. You have to like after care about the blood. Then usually you have to the polish the material or a little bit adjust the occlusal surface to look more anatomical, because thanks to burrs, and this is the one thing what I have to focus more for 3D printing, is the limitation of the burr thickness, because it's operated from internal side, from occlusal surface, external side, and especially occlusion. It's usually, from my eyes, ugly if I will have not used my human touch, or my dental technician will do the human touch to the occlusal surface to look more anatomical, because the fissures not looks like fissures, because usually the pointed burr is 1.2 millimeter thick, and it's not so nice compared to what is possible to do with the printing process, because the additive technique allow you to do as much as the anatomical proposal that you will receive, you will achieve from the software, you can displace to the additive process, to the printing process, and definitely occlusal surface is nicer. And
So did you compare the two
I will show you
processes?
pictures. I have a pictures in my presentation,
So
and I will.
maybe this is the point that you show us some images of
Yes.
what you're working on, and then
Yeah.
after that maybe
We
it's
can go
clear
back.
also
We can go
to
back to
have
the workflow. Yeah.
more questions. Yeah. Okay. Let's
Yeah.
share
Sure.
let's share the screen.
Okay. Uh, the first like the limitation, and also the why I have decided to try to use and implement more the printing, the permanent restoration, is the occlusal software surface, how I mentioned before, because usually the software show you the limitation of the burrs, which is impossible to mill from external sides, from occlusal surface, and as well from the internal surface, because it's your the preparation have to be really very smooth and very rounded to avoid the burst interaction, which going usually it's a step burst, it's going inside your inside your restoration, and this the bird touching and many times over milling the internal surface can be responsible for later cracks which can appear during the function or during the dry try-in, because Um, if you are not to check again your milling proposal back with your virtual model, you don't know how the software reduce minimal thickness which you have preset before. And this is what you can avoid with the printing process. Here's a section view. You can see here like this overmill part, but this the spacement for the printing research was really rounded, but still you can see just the small overmilling surface. And software proposal of the anatomical surface, or occlusal surface, is many times the beautiful, but after the milling or grinding process, it's better grinding if we are talking about glass ceramic or disilicate, it's only grinding options in our milling units. The occlusal surface never looks like that. What I have found, like the limitation now, is that not all the softwares are prepared for immediately printing after the finishing the CAM design, because almost all the software thinking that you will mill your restoration, and they have no option to prepare in the beginning the setup that you will not to mill or grind, but you will print. Because after that, if you will go, for example, to this software, you can see that software automatically thinking that all the restoration will be milled. It's on a proposal, and on the left side of the picture, this is the picture from the mesh mixer where it's operating with the STL model. Because after this design, you can decide to export to the STL, but the software already thinking that you will mill. This is, I think, the weakest part, and you have to care about that to achieve all the advantages of the printing process. Think about the software proposal. And here is the part of my research which I have made. This is the manually prepared third lower molar tooth with the red strip diamond instrument, because again, this is very important part, is that how we are preparing the tooth, because we can influence more the quality of fitting the restoration. That means how big is the gap between the preparation and restoration. If you will choose the right instrument for the preparation, and you will prep all the time with the red strip and avoid the green one or the black one, because you can do, especially around the neck where is a lot of aprismatic enamel part, you can avoid these cracks or the chip of the enamel. And definitely if the margin line is not as smooth, it doesn't exist the milling unit and the printing machine as well to copy the margin line with a lot of cracks and the chip around. And this is how usually the preparation is prepped with number 010. That means it's a 0.5 millimeter thick shoulder preparation. And I have milled the most popular, what I have read in the magazine, the CAD CAM magazine, most of popular lithium disilicate material and the fit. And you can see, because of the material, this the lithium disilicate is very hard for the milling, and many times appear the chipping around. You can see that there is a gap in a dry in 145 millimeter. And look at, for example, the composite block. The composite block, because has a easier to mill because the material is softer and the high elasticity model, there is a gap 27 microns only. And it's very close to, for example, here, the permanent crown resin, we find 39 microns, like the biggest gap around 5 points of measurement around the tooth. And this is what is really like amazing for me, that we can integrate 3D printing the permanent material inside our daily workflow. Here is the comparison between, for example, occlusal surface. On the left side is lithium disilicate, the occlusal surface after milling process. On the right side is the same proposal, but this proposal is prepared for milling, but still you can see that occlusal surface after printing looks more anatomical. And this is the prepared not for printing, only for the milling. Look at internal part. Again, internal part in lithium disilicate has the stable touch inside, the overmilled part, but the printing part looks more smoother and better adapted to the surface. Look at the margin. On the left side is the margin of the lithium disilicate. On the right side is the margin line of the permanent 3D printed resin. And another assigned picture of occlusal surface to better to see the difference, how overmilled, because the very thick the pointed bridge responsible for occlusal surface compared to printing part. And again, the magnified margin and SI microscope between lithium disilicate material, where you can see here the chipping in like external part of the margin line, and how smooth, how sharp is a margin of the resin printed from the permanent material. In my eyes, it's a funny name, the permanent, because what does mean the permanent? What is the permanent? Nothing is permanent. It's up to us when we will decide that which material is a temporary, which material is a permanent. I have seen a lot of permanent materials which like has the cracks or was broken or was destroyed after 1 year or 2 years, and we still call it as permanent. It's not permanent. Permanent is that's what's maybe it works during the patient life or our professional life, because then we can do the patient like a long unlimited the guarantee for our treatment. Look back to this picture. This is the different resin. This is as well the printed resin, but the temporary, which is not so fillet. And what's happened if the post-production is not so good? That means especially the curing process, because the curing process is a crucial part of the post-production during the printing. It's not only about to have exact right wavelengths. That means to have the curing generator inside, which produce the wavelengths which works with the resin. But it's about the type of the light, it's about the power, it's about the time, and it's about temperature. And it should be fit perfectly in a balance. Like, for example, if we are doing the direct composite resin, if you will use, for example, the Chinese curing clamp with, you don't know exactly the wavelengths, and because just to save money, you will use it for the regular restorative material. Many times happen that material is not cured well, maybe the surface, but not internal part. And this is similar with post-production of the 3D printed materials. For example, here you can see it's almost 141 micrometers, like stretched inside, like it's not on the shoulder line, and it was to happen because I'm used like not official curing device, just to try what's happened if we will use, for example, the cheaper curing clamp. and it's happened not only the one part, it's happened around completely around the tooth. And because all the printed material has the additive technique, that means they don't care about for example the problems with the sharp edges in internal surface, because many times happen that the milling the burr can go into your the preparation, because for example the incisal edge is too sharp or your cuspids are too much anatomical, and the burr can go inside. You can exactly displace your restoration in your preparation, and you have to do manually adjust that and things like that. It's never happened with the 3D process,
Mhm.
because it's additive, and this is the very big advantage, because you can reduce your spacer from, for example, 100, which is like official recommended for the milling process, for example, to 40 or to 50, and just the care about diluting material which you will use, for example, with the more fillet or preheated composite, or if it will be like the flow composite, the flow material, or composite resins, depends on the particles inside this diluting material. You can better care about the spacer than with the millet material. Yeah, that's
So yeah, this is very interesting. But let's jump just into the next question. So there was
yeah.
one question. So how are the materials in relation to physical parameters? So we are talking about a printed composite material, and I agree with you that you say, okay, look, at the end, everything we are doing is temporary. We know that bonding lasts max 30 years. So there's so far today we have no technology replacing the really old school technologies to stay for 50 years or longer. So what we are doing today is less. I'm not talking about minimal invasive. I don't like this term. Less invasive procedures. We try to replace what is missing, and so I agree with you that printing something is for sure the future. But can we replace? So you were talking about composite materials that can be printed. Maybe this might something for posterior restorations, but how how can we replace aesthetic materials? So I use a lot anemic for a lot of indications, but when I go to the front teeth, I always come back and use my feldspathic blocks because they have better optical properties, and I take into consideration that maybe I have different problems with the bonding and everything, but at the end, my patient and myself, I want to see something that looks nice. So how do you see the development of these materials? So I think your statement of saying these are long-term temporary materials, but long-term temporaries can also last for 10 years or 20 years. But how do you see the development? So when I look at the literature, printing ceramics is at the stage that we can print the prefabricated zirconia that then has to be sintered. So it's still a very complex procedure. With the composite, I see it a little bit less complex. But what are the developments? So you are more into that. So what is the next generation of materials that can be printed? What can we expect?
Regarding what's is on the market today, this permanent crown material for 3D printer is has a similar. It's a fillet, has a similar module of elasticity, and all these features like the composite blocks. And there is not so big different compared to anemic. I guess the others are monocolor. Only anemic has this multi-layer option, and I'm really very keen on the play with to do the cutback if it's necessary to achieve the higher aesthetic. It's the same like with the composite block. It's easy to reduce. It's easy to sandblast and add the composite layer more transparent and to play with the aesthetic. And what I really like with these resin materials and the polymers materials, it's very easy to repair because once we will do all the steps, that means we care about very good preparation and we care about the function. We are using the virtual articulator and we like trying to simulate all the movement as much as possible. Still can should happen. That means still can appear the crack. Still can you can have a like the destroy this ceramic surface. Or for example, in posterior teeth, if you have the ceramic crowns or the ceramic the onlay, and you have to do endo treatment because sometimes it happens that because you don't want to be the serial pulp killer and remove immediately the pulp if you to doing the prostate restorations. Sometimes can happen that you have to do later endo treatment, and if you will go through the ceramic restoration and you would like to try the repair after with the composite, it's always visible. But if you have already the only from the resin, it's very easy and almost invisibly repair with the composite because it's very close, almost the same material. That's why I like this technique more and more because give me the safe to repair something. Especially, for example, if we are doing like all on four, all on six, the bridges, and you have to care about each crown is easier if you will place each crown solo, and you can repair each crown than if you have the framework and you layering with like conventional technique, the ceramic over, and when a crack appear, you have to repair everything, and this is the real nightmare.
Yes, it's like I remember many patients where I have to take off old Emax crowns or zirconia crowns. So it takes you sometimes hours to get off the old restorations. And I think one of the key points of new material developments should be repairability, better, easier maintenance. So I saw you in Berlin at the key opinion leader meeting where you showed also this cutback case where you did a layering with composite, and we know there are so many masters, and you are one of them. So many masters out there that can handle composite materials. Composites today are fantastic materials, and it's amazing. Even when I'm talking about enamic, so then people are pushing this material into the composite part, like composite is something bad. But composite is today 90% of what we are doing. So restorative dentistry is adhesive dentistry using composite materials and using composite materials more and more and more. Uh, just because of all the points you mentioned correctly. And if we can add now the 3D printing, the additive manufacturing, I think this is amazing what we can do. And coming back to the point that you say the STL, the STL generated by almost all CAD CAM systems, it's milling orientated. I agree. And we should ask, I don't know if you already did, we should ask the companies to say, okay, when what we scan is what you have prepared. So we can take an image that represents the surface that we have prepared, and then do the whole design with zero spacer, with nothing, and then from that point can select, I want to print it or I want to mill it. and the two ways are completely different. And this is also one of the issues or the problems this assembled these Lego CAD CAM systems. I call them Lego CAD CAM systems. So you buy a scanner from one company, the software from another, and the milling unit or the printer from a third company, and they do not work together because the sequence, the transfer of one stage to the other needs always special rules, special mathematical rules, and these are the problems that many companies have not overcome. And that's why and I know that also you are a big CEREC fan or big CEREC user, but at the end, I don't know why other companies are not realizing that the closed system is not a closed system, but it's a closed workflow. And I'm really looking forward to the development of new materials. So maybe you can give us some brands or names or companies that are working. I know that there are many companies out there doing 3D printers and 3D materials, but maybe you can highlight again the materials you have tested so that we have an idea without being commercial or anything, but where are the main development happening in 3D printed materials?
Yeah, but I'm not so big fan to like advertise the things because I am not paid with that company. They gave me like the zero to my research, nothing. It was everything. It's like coming from my pocket, and that's why I don't want to mention the names of the company, but you said very important things. This closed and open system, but now I think the systems are not so closed and not so open. The closed, that's mean if it's prepared for the milling process. In my eyes, it's very important to be closed because the setup, the algorithm of the milling, together with the software, as with the CAD CAM software, it's so difficult because the each setup of each movement of the motors and the head inside, it's so delicious. But it's completely different to the printing. It's not so big issue if you will scan with the one scanner. You will design in a open software and you will print because this additive technique is more easier. And that's why I'm using another software for the milling process and another software for the printing software process, which is more the open. And
So what?
regarding the material, sorry, and regarding the material, I can say the name of the material because it's only one, like the permanent resin on the market. It's easy to. There is no competition, and this coming from the Bego, and they are first who like to launch the first permanent resin for 3D printing.
Okay, so that was one question. What do you think about prep guides?
That's I think yeah, the prep guides there it's about the minimum thickness, and it's about available for the bonding. The composite is very easy to sandblast and the bond to the surface. Definitely it's better if we have the enamel surface because it's the bonding strength is higher. That means as well the preparation, if we can be as much as less invasive, it's this is the idea, not open dentin tubuli if it's not necessary. But usually like my like the famous burr for the preparation starting with a 0.6, that's mean I'm starting with 0.3 shoulder around the neck. We are talking about the crown, but it's I can say it's virtual information because 90% of my the cases are repairing all the crowns which are unprecise, which are very ugly, which are over prepped, and I'm balancing to do the build composite, the build up, and to do, for example, the new endo treatment and the bleach, the abutment which is the dark because of the material endo, the old endo, the sealers, and all the amalgams penetration inside juice. This is the daily bread. And start talking about the guides for the preparation. It's a good for the demonstration in a lab or in a phantom training center where we have a choice to start to prep real tools. But Alessandro, let me know how many times you are prepping beautiful, healthy tools and start to with this guided process.
If I have a natural intact tooth, I don't touch it. I don't touch
Absolutely, absolutely, it's
so,
a red light. Stop.
yeah. But this is another good question. You mentioned it in a fraction of a second when you were talking about the spacers. So the question is the precision of printing. What do we need? We know when we mill, we aim to be around 50 microns. So it's something in between 50 and 100. That
Yeah.
theoretically it could be lower, but realistic it's something between 50 and 100. But I think in printing we are almost at the same level, but
Yes. Yes.
with the advantage of not having the dimension of the burr to be considered. So you agree that we can have a higher precision when
Yes.
we are printing, but people always want to know or to hear numbers. So what microns would you throw in for a 3D printer to be the desired dimension of printing?
Regarding the printing process depends on which kind of the printer you have, because there is a between usually starting from the 12, the average 25 to 50 microns, which you can achieve for the printing precision, and it's always about the time as well, because the cheapest printer can achieve the high precision, but it's a time consuming. For example, if I will, if for me is sufficient 50 microns precision for the printing, single crown can be printed from permanent resin material. Depends on the size of the tooth, but it's between 30 to 40 minutes. But other post production is a little bit faster than waiting 20 minutes in the furnace, or 30 for the crystallization, or sometimes more for the sintering. Doesn't matter, but it depends on which kind of sintering unit you have. If you have, for example, this fast sintering process, it's about 15, 18, 20 minutes as well. And the my spacer, if I am doing the single crown restoration, my spacer for the printing crown is 50 microns, and it's perfectly seated. And then I'm using the flow composite, because the flow composite is like light cure material, which goes through light through this type of the crown easy. Then I think this very easy to bond this situation. If it's difficult to bond, to use adhesive, like adhesive process, I prefer to a little bit increase the spacer, for example, to 60 or 70 microns. And in that case, I use resin, cement, usually the self-etch. And I think it's pretty much easier to manipulate with a dry field.
No, that's really interesting. So when you compare when I do a CEREC restoration, it takes me 1 hour. So the average time for an experienced CEREC user to do an inlay or even an overlay is around 60 to 70 minutes. So what's the time? So you see that you can do it in the same time with the printing?
I'm doing in the same time, but usually I am not going quite this way, because In the beginning, when I started with a CEREC, I feel like the Formula One pilot, and I promise unpromised things to the patient. That's me, for example, the restoration will be ready after 1 hour, and all my stuff was under pressure. And once the patient wait like 10 minutes or 15 minutes later, start to be nervous because I promised something. Now, I think I'm just to delegate the things to my dental technician, and I between this like post-production part, I replaced another patient. That's mean sometimes it's about 2 hours, sometimes it's 2.5, sometimes it's 3 hours. Depends of the what I'm doing to the patient between, and like we negotiate with the patient to call them for dry trying, or if like it's an unprecise the time. If they have a time, for example, the morning or afternoon for the dental treatment, we tell them it will be after 2 hours. But definitely it's sooner. But it's a better if we are waiting for a patient than the patient is waiting for us.
Absolutely. So it's not about the race who is the fastest dentist.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but I'm talking about chairside dentistry, and chairside dentistry is not something that takes 4 hours or 5 hours. So let's say my recommendation, if you can do something below 2 hours, for me it can be considered chairside. If it takes
Yes.
longer, then you have to think about doing it in 2 sessions and involve your lab technicians, or do it by yourself and send the patient home. But then you need to do the temporary and so I prefer to have my patient waiting in the office, especially, for example, when we do multiple zirconia restorations. So this is then something that you have to plan and know what you are doing in the waiting times and so on and so on. So I agree with you, and yeah.
Yeah. That Alessandro, the longest time is for the single restoration. For example, there is not so big difference if we are printing, for example, 2 or 3 or 4 in the same time the restorations compared to milling process. You have to mill one, then the second, third, and it's like it's time consuming more if you doing more than one restoration with like the milling process or this milling grinding process compared to printing. Uh, I think I still prefer like to save the patient time as well. For example, to do 2 teeth if it's possible, or 3 in a same session, than just the one single restoration and waiting for the other patient. I know it
That's why,
sometimes it's
yeah.
not easy, but it's about this like
Absolutely,
time management.
because what
Yeah,
I did very soon is to buy, and now I have 3 milling machines in my office, because the bottleneck in CAD CAM dentistry is the production. The
sure.
production is the time consuming part, not preparation, not scanning, not designing. It's
Yeah,
the milling and the finishing. And I agree. I completely agree. In a printer, you can have 4, 5, 6, and depending on the size of the printing table, you can even have 10 crowns produced at the same time. So doing multiple restoration makes 3D printing even more efficient. So,
yeah.
so this was the message I was hearing from your side. Is that correct?
Yeah, as well depends on where you will place on a platform your restoration, because it's on like the left side where the starting the mesh the cut the printing layer, it will be faster, for example 5-10 minutes than if it's going in the middle or to the right side. And the previous printers, especially the laser beam, was like a recommendation to place the restoration to the middle, because was like more accurate because of the beamer transition. But now there is a like reflection to the whole the platform in the same resolution, same
So,
quality. And
So
thanks
you're
to
working.
positioning, you can be
Yeah.
faster.
Sorry. So you're working with DLP printers.
Yes, and we have a like a Formlab 3B.
Okay.
This one, yeah,
So,
and
but this would be another topic for all people out there who don't know what a DLP printer and what all
yeah,
this
yeah,
3D printer are all about.
yeah,
So
yeah.
maybe we will redo another interview talking about the different technologies. So we were just touching. I think we were just scratching the surface of what 3D printing is all about and where it's going. But for me, it was interesting to see that somebody who is a very experienced CAD CAM dentist is now implementing and seeing that there will be a transition from milling to printing. And what do you think? When will 3D printing be not mainstream, but available to more dentists out there, like myself? So when do you think it's time for me to try to switch from milling? Maybe not for all restorations, but for part of the restorations, because I have to think if I should buy a new prime mill or if I should buy a 3D printer.
You
What
know,
would you suggest?
I don't know. I don't know, Alessandro, how is in Switzerland, but if I will look at the region where I live, and I have spoken with the guys from the dance place Rona, they confirm me the situation that less and less dentists buying all the systems. That's mean it's like to stop this era when the dentist buying the scanner, milling unit, the funing machine, or the sintering unit, because they recognize this efficiency process. Because if you are like the simulate and working like a dental technician, you have to be paid like a dental technician. Or if the dentist to do all that stuff, that's mean responsible for the milling, designing, the finishing, polishing, glazing, and at first they never be, this restoration never be so beautiful like specialist dental technician. But in the same time, if you will do prepping and to do the dentist work, you will be high efficient than if you will to do all the things alone. But it's about the freedom. We have both these choices. But what I have seen that dentists now prefer to switch from the analog to digital, buying the scanner and starting with the sending the data to dental technician, not wasting the time to do everything alone because they are afraid with this learning curve, time consuming process to be good like a designer, like the ceramist, to care about the surface, to understand the glaze, to understand the staining, painting, and all that stuff. It's not so easy. And I believe you agree with me that you like to need to be trained, well trained to do beautiful, not the ugly, the white, the ceramics, which are very fast to do, but you don't want to have the similar in your mouth. And that's why I have recognized that for the dentist now, it's easier to buy the printer to the office because it's almost 10 times cheaper, and they have the more options because they can print the model. For example, if we are scanning the patients, all the patients during the first appointment, we have a data for beautiful natural teeth, and sometimes they happen because a lot of people are active and they, for example, to have the accident and they lost the corner of the central incisor. It's very easy to print the data, the initial data, then to do the silicone key, and then to do direct restoration without special wax up because you can immediately to do the beautiful silicon key and rebuild, restore the cracked tooth. Or you can print your own the guides for the implantology, like the surgery guides. You can do you can print the Michigan plates. You can do a lot of stuff with a printer. Temporaries. It's important if you have not your lab so close. I think it's easy to prepare the temporary restoration. If you have to send or if you have the problem to invest to your own lab. And I see more options with low investment to buy immediately the printer than to invest to the CAD CAM because you have to hold the CAD CAM system, because you have to grow to the whole the CAD CAM system. That's my
Yeah, yeah.
opinion.
But then you have to buy a system with an automatic, or let's say semi-automatic washing system and a good curing system, because you
Yes.
also showed that bad curing is not good. So the post-processing of the 3D printed models, restorations, whatever, is very, very important.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so let's say from my side or my experience, when I tried or played around with 3D printer, I was not taking enough attention to the post production, because this was like, yeah, you can wash it a little bit and cure it a little bit, but these are points that you showed very, very, very nicely also in your presentation, that this is also a relevant part of the production workflow, the curing of the material. It's like curing the composite in the mouth, so we are talking about similar things. And yes, so it's very exciting, and I think we have reached almost 1 hour. I don't want I could continue for another 1 or 2 hours to talking to
You
you,
don't want to
but
boring
I think
people.
it's better, or my philosophy is not talking too much, getting to the point. I think you brought very interesting arguments, very interesting research you're doing. I really appreciate if a private dentist is doing research that is beneficial for all of us. So we know that where the development is going, and if people from nothing against university, we need university, we need research at the university, but I appreciate a lot private initiatives like yours to say, look, this is what I did on my patient, this is what I did in clinical situations, and this motivates me also to take another look into 3D printing, and maybe not buying the prime mill, but buying buying a 3D printer, and but then I need to do and come. I have to come to your place and do a workshop to get some training from your side, because I think training is also very important. And for all out there, I know that Joseph doesn't like to do advertisement, but Joseph has a very beautiful training center, and I wanted to come to visit you, but now with this whole Corona situation, I'm still blocked in Switzerland. But if doors open, if and I think we see a light at the end of the tunnel, I will come to visit you in the Czech Republic, and I hope that we will exchange more information. And for sure, we will do another interview with you very soon, because this is a really hot topic that we need to discuss more in detail. So thank you very much from my side. So Joseph,
My pleasure.
you're allowed to have the last word
Yeah.
before we stop this interview.
Yeah, Alessandro, thank you very much again for the invitation. It's a pleasure and honor for me to be inside your interview serials. And yeah, I think I don't wanna like now to be the guy who is against the milling units. No, no way. I think it's about the balance. It's about to find the right things for each person, each dentist, all of us living in a different conditions. I have around me 8 milling units, and it's easy to say you don't need them. Yes, we are using the milling units still as well, but I see that implementing the 3D into the daily practice is more close to reality. And how I have seen the video with Bill Gates. He's almost ready to print the food, which looks like real food and tastes like real food, but it's from plants. It's not from meat, for example. And that's I'm afraid about that situation happen during my life, and we will print everything, but the 3D printing is more close to be integrated in a daily basis in a dental office. Thank you very much again. And really, if I will be invited again, it's my pleasure. I will be ready to come back. Thank you, Alessandro.
Thank
And
you.
have a
Thank you
nice,
very much.
have a nice
Take care.
rest
Take
of
care.
the day.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.